I mean, what should we worry about?
I don't think that you should like tell the kids, you can't learn this because, everyone does it, and you don't want to be that extreme where you say, no, it's wrong. I don't want to, even like get the kids to be exposed to that, because they will be exposed to that in the media, TV, internet, and they will be exposed to everything. Kids these days see anything on TV these days. But I feel like as a Muslim, you should just kind of be aware of the curriculum, be aware of when this is taught and what's actually being taught. You have to be kind of more involved as a parent, and don't just like my parents, when sex education was taught when I was in year 6 or year 5, my parents didn't even read, they signed it, because they had a language barrier there. But I feel like as a parent you should just kind of get more involved with the school, maybe become a school governor or something like that, to kind of get you more kind of aware, especially the subjects as well. Sometimes it's too much as well. Yeah. So some kids, I was working in a school in Kent, and they had a sex expert to come in and talk, and the kids, the way they responded kind of surprised me. They really, really enjoyed it. So it kind of has the two. Some kids want to know what's out there, and some kids, because if you don't teach them, I feel like they might do the opposite and might want to explore it themselves.
I think that's the worry, isn't it? And it's the thing as a parent. Obviously, you can, take your children out of these classes, but I think for me the worry would be more what's sort of spilling over into the playground and that kind of thing.
That's true.
I mean, you're saying that, but is there anything wrong with actually talking to our children about these topics?
I don't think necessarily there's anything wrong. I think again it comes back to this issue of context and how it's taught and why it's taught. Sometimes I remember when I was at school, the sex education, and we didn't have this particular lesson, but the equivalent in those days, it was very much a kind of box-ticking exercise. So it wasn't particularly thorough. It wasn't particularly anything. It was just a sort of very kind of grey area. So I think it has to respond to the needs of the child, and that is sort of age as well as religious background, cultural background, that kind of thing. But I think the problem here is when you have parents that have time and the knowledge and the wherewithal to guide their children through these issues, at home, if they discuss them and the children feel happy to discuss it with the parents, and the parents can navigate them through and say, okay, this is what you've learnt at school, so what does Islam say about this? How do we understand this as a Muslim? That's fine. It's the children that don't have that kind of family environment. This is the problem. This is where we're going to see
Which is a shame, because as parents we should sort of preempt these things, because I remember growing up, my mum had this talk with me when I was about 9-10 years old, and then when I got to secondary school age where I was having these lessons, I felt really uncomfortable in the way that they were talking about it, and I didn't want to be in the lesson. So it wasn't an issue of my mum trying to pull me out of the lesson. She'd already given me the information I needed, but it's just, even from my own experience, you just think, is it really appropriate to kind of show and give them tools, and it's really making the problem a little bit more, I don't know, it's more exposing to them. I mean, should we be surprised that these things are being taught in these lessons?
Absolutely not. I mean, I think at the end of the day, the government will always will always look at these issues and need to address them. STI, sexually transmitted diseases is a big problem. Pregnancies is a big problem. Of course they will teach these things, but the thing we need to be focusing on is how, what kind of values and concepts are they passing when they're doing this, from what perspective. And that was just in addition to what you guys were saying. If we don't talk about it as parents and as guardians, then who will? Yeah. Because someone's going to step in. Either the government's going to do it or their friends will. I know I basically got all my knowledge from friends and from TV, which is not great, subhanAllah. And we can't allow this to happen. So we need to, whether it's brothers or sisters or whatever, we need to be getting involved in and explaining these issues to them.
I think because I can't speak for everyone, but I've seen in the Muslim community, parents don't want to talk about these things with their children because they think that it's not something that they should talk to them about. But it's really imperative that we teach them about these things, because like you were saying, Zainab, they're going to get this information elsewhere, and it might not be the right sort of information for them.
Yeah. And as a slightly different angle to this, we also have to understand that as Muslims, we we don't just slot into any scenario that we're in. You know, we do practice and believe in a completely different way of viewing life, and that extends to the education system. That the education system of this country is not the way that Islam dictates it, and it's something that Islam's education system would be one that encourages and enforces the understanding and the connection to Allah, and that, you know, so these ideas of individualism and freedom and things like that do not exist within that context. So it focuses them and builds their character, but we don't have that. So we have to be on it as parents, you know, and not just let the school deal with it. And that sister was saying, we have to talk to the teachers. We have to have those relationships.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, this is kind of following on to what I wanted to ask you. How can, you know, parents or guardians stay on top of what their kids are being taught at school?
I would say curriculum. There's more and more schools have things on websites. So just check out, just make sure the topics you're comfortable with, everything they're talking about. And also just speak to the teachers, have a bit more kind of a relationship with the teachers. Most teachers would love to talk to the parents about the curriculum. You know, as teachers, you would want that relationship with your parent, with the parents, anyways. And also, just don't shy away from it as well. Like, don't feel like just because it's sex education that you, as a Muslim, you can't talk about it. Sometimes, for children to understand things, they need to know what it's about, and I feel like that's quite important as well.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely, because if we don't inform ourselves, you know, then we don't know what's happening with them, and it's part of our responsibility as parents so that we know that they're getting what they need rather than what's going to sort of, you know, take them away from the path that we'd like for them to be on.
We do have this mentality that, offshoring responsibilities. So some Islamic building and knowledge goes to the madrasa, the academic stuff goes to the school. You know, I have nothing to do with that, I don't need to think about it, and that does not exist. That reality does not exist, and it's at your peril that you let your children, you just let them, you let others teach your children these things.
It's confusing for your child as well, because we say all the time, you know, Islam is a complete way of life, it's a holistic approach to life, and yet, you know, we're not really leading by example in that sense. If we're, you know, saying this place is for this place is for that, never the twine shall meet, basically.
Absolutely. You know, we have to have those discussions. Those discussions have to take place. And as parents, you know, we know that being parents is a tough job, and we have to do it. And this is part of it, unfortunately. So for any parents who are watching, you know, talk to your children. I mean, inshallah, you've got your daughter who's 2 at the moment. When do you think you probably have this sort of chat with her?
Well, I think this, for me, has been a really good eye-opener, to be honest, and I think it's really made me think about the way I'm going to teach Islam to my daughter. And again, it's not. I'm going to try and do it in a way that isn't, you know, okay, today we're going to be talking about this. This day we're going to be talking about this. It's always going to be okay. What does Islam say about this? I'm always going to try and keep it as, you know, holistic as I can, so that when these things come up, you know, she will have the tools and the mechanisms in place to actually be able to deal with it, inshallah.
I mean, you know, in terms of school governors and their role, what do you think their involvement should be?
Well, I think it's really interesting, actually, and I would really advise parents or anyone who's interested in the education system to get in there. It's a fantastic experience to be a school governor, and you know, you can have sort of varying different tasks. But reading a report about schools in Tower Hamlets, they actually 93% of the schools consulted school governors about SRE. So that's actually really telling about the role of a governor and how you can actually feed into the education system. You can give your perspective from, you know, from a sort of Muslim viewpoint, and you can actually, you know, you can actually make a difference. I know people sometimes think that, oh, you know, it's not going to matter if I'm there or not, but it does actually make a difference. And whatever you're feeding into the school, even if you're not a school governor, I know a lot of like my friends have gone into their schools and done assemblies or classroom or, you know, kind of group chats with the children about Eid or Muslims or, you know, certain things that are coming up in the Muslim community, just to, you know, highlight these issues and give more, you know, give more kind of information. And it's great dawah, isn't it, to go into the schools and capture the children at this young age.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Jazakallah khair, sister, for a very informative and interesting discussion. It is important not to become overwhelmed with our task as protectors of our youth. No matter where we live in the world, it is crucial to know the environment our children live in. What they learn in school, see on TV and the internet, and the friends they have are all important aspects we need to know about in depth. Whilst understanding these issues is important, we must also know how to discuss these issues with our children to strengthen their confidence in Islam, whilst helping them function in a world which does not reflect Islam in its entirety, being productive parts of the community and strong Muslims. Allah says in Surah Tahrim verse 6, "O you who believe, guard yourselves and your families from a fire whose fuel is men and stones." So that's what the sisters think, but what do you think? We'd love to hear from you and your comments. Please email us at womensam@islamchannel.tv or tweet us at islamchannel #womensam, or you can contact us on the Islam Channel Facebook page. We also have our weekly poll, and this week we're asking you sisters, does practicing Islam help in the relationship between couples and the in-laws? We're off to another break now, but we will return with a healthy dose of fun. Stay tuned, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.